Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of That's Not My Job podcast, where every week we will be bringing on some of the most successful business owners and industry experts to discuss how they built their organizations, scaled to achieve their goals, and share their secrets behind what makes their businesses tick. I'm super excited for this particular episode. You guys remember Lewis? I met Lewis at a mastermind about a year ago. And it's funny because this guest that I'm bringing on today, I met her at the same mastermind. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to continue that relationship with her and her husband. From that time, they came out to her wholesaling mastermind back in May, and it's just been really cool to see what they've been able to do, not just in the traditional real estate side, but also what they've been doing on the investment side. So they've definitely been doing a lot of cool things in the North Carolina real estate market. So I can't wait to bring her on, have her share her story with you, and hopefully, guys, get your pen, get your paper ready to go to take some notes, because I know you're going to get a tremendous amount of value from this video today. So without further ado, let's bring her on. Kaila,
hey
what's up? What's going on?
How's it going? That was quite the intro. I hope I hold up to that introduction.
Oh my gosh, stop. I'm so excited because it's been really cool. Like what I'm saying. I was speaking with Lewis and obviously Colton, and then getting to see you. Like, I know you're a leader in that WGR group, and just to see like what I've heard from other people in the groups, like, oh my gosh, Kaila's doing so much. Like, she's crushing it. And then obviously with Ryan, like, I know what you guys, like, I have an idea what you guys are doing, but like reading some of this stuff, what you guys have been able to accomplish in a short period of time, it's like insane. So I can't wait. Like, when you guys are hearing this story today, this is the first time I'm going to hear the story too. So I can't wait to like get into it.
It's been a process from the start, but it's really about just getting up, showing up every day. Like, at the bottom of all of it, that's really what it is. Getting up and showing up every day, whether it sucks, whether it's great. Like, you can't just bow out. You have to show up.
So you're telling me you don't feel like it every day? You're not motivated every single day?
No, not every day. Some days I'd like to just be like, can someone else be me for the day? Can someone else just go do this for me? That'd be great. And sometimes I do get to do that. I'm not going to lie.
Yes. I love that. Like, that's something that as I was reading through your bio stuff, I was like, wow, wait a second. She takes 14 weeks off a year. That is so cool. And I think and we'll get into that here in a second, but I think sometimes we romanticize the idea of just like busting our butt and working hard, but that's not the reason. Normally, that's not the reason why we got into this business. We wanted some freedom, right?
It's not the lifestyle, and that it's interesting, and it's kind of one of those things. Let me turn up a little bit of light here. That's way better.
Hey,
here I am. That's what I think one of the biggest things that I ran into when I first started my career, right? Like, you don't quite know what you're doing. You're literally hustling. Like, we've all heard the phrase hustling, but you don't want to hustle your entire career. You want to be able to morph and move and do different things. And
that's good.
That was my first year. My first year was hustle. And guess what? Hustle is a real thing. You can't just show up and build a team in, a week. You've got to show up and, pay your dues in a way.
Right. Like, I think we can all agree, like, hustle, you have to hustle. That's a part of it. You got to bust your butt. But who wants to hustle for a decade? Like, still be doing the same thing over and over and over and over. That is not the point.
It's not the point. It's about building that lifestyle. So you kind of get to that point where you go, okay, this is great. And I'm making good money, right? Anybody that's ever been there, their first year that they like did really well. And it was my first year in real estate. I broke 6 figures, and not even broke it. Like, I hit $120,000. And I remember, I will never forget this. I remember sitting on the sofa. Ryan was sitting there fiddling with the fireplace or something. And I'm literally on a piece of paper, right? Like, that's how old school, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't track my numbers. I'm like on loose leaf paper, just writing it all out. And I said, honey, do you know I made $120,000 this year? And he was just like, what? I was like, yeah, I just figured it out. I know if anybody is finding that odd or like bad, you should, because it should not be on loose leaf paper.
Oh my gosh. That's insane.
It was one of those aha moments, like, holy shit, this could be really cool. But
yeah,
then
you were just getting started.
Yeah. And it was one of those where it can get away from you real quick, right? Because you start feeling like, oh, I'm really cool. I can do these things. So sometimes you slack off on certain things, or you push into things you shouldn't. And then it creates this little spiral where you're like, okay, this isn't as much fun because I'm doing a lot of work and I'm just inching just slightly more forward than I was last year. What's going on?
Right.
That's like one of the biggest challenges I see other people are successful their first year or second year. It's like,
it's like the golden handcuffs a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Because you can hustle, you can bust your butt. And I think that's something that's a big aha as you grow your business. You realize what got you here won't get you there. You can hustle, you can throw a bunch of stuff against the wall, and some things are going to stick, and you can hustle your butt off. If you're a winner, you're going to show up every day and you're going to make it happen. You're going to make six figures for sure. Right. But at some point you're like, okay, well, what's the next level to this? Right. So that's really interesting. Cause like, what was your background before you transitioned into, like, it didn't just happen. Like, you weren't just like, boom, real estate, six figures. Right. So like, what was that process? Where'd you,
okay, so
like, what
like,
profession did you come from? Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to give you the funny backstory. So
Let's hear it.
And this is going like all the way back to senior in college or high school. My parents literally came to me. It was like fall or spring of junior year of high school. I said, so what college are you applying to? I didn't know I was going to college. Like I thought like high school ends, I go have a life like that I had no aspiration to do anything further / for whatever reason, it was never really drilled into me that you're going to college, you're going to do these things. But I always wanted to be successful, just never really knew how that was going to happen. So I go ahead, I apply, I get into school, and I selected NC State for the color red. Wolf is my spirit animal. Guy to girl ratio was great. And they had a football team. Great way to pick your college.
Yes.
Great way. Yeah.
The colors and the mascot.
Yeah. So I realized I have to pick a major. And I was like, you know what? Dentists make really good money and they only work certain days of the week. I'm going to be a dentist. Anybody who's ever started in biology in college know that organic chemistry comes around and you realize very quickly that is not what you are going to be. And I was one of those people. So I graduated. I ended up going, the one class that I got anything out of aside from scuba diving was personal selling. And I'll never forget that teacher. His name was Mr. Pierogi, Joe Pierogi. Funny guy, but like serious about business and sales. And I never quite understood business and sales. So I was like, I actually got a lot out of it. It was very real world. So when I was in school, I was babysitting, and I promise this will come to a head. I was babysitting, and it turns out they had two homes that came into one. And they had a huge storage unit full of just basically a second house, right? Because they were in their 40s when they got married. So I said, well, this is stupid.
So it was two houses? Is that what you're saying? It was a duplex?
Well, it was like two adults, right? And they moved into the second house. You know what I mean?
Got
it. Two full houses of furniture. So I said, that's silly. Like, why don't I go, while I'm here, why don't I go sell your stuff on Craigslist? So I'd ride my motorcycle over to the storage unit, take pictures of everything, post it online. And I sold a bicycle. And this is where it comes to where my career came from. I sold a bicycle, and I sold it for like $40. And he starts laughing. The dad's laughing. He goes, I bought that for $30 6 years ago. And I said, values in the eye of the beholder. And he goes, I'm hiring you. I didn't even know what company he had, but he said he hired me for sales. I didn't even know what the business was.
Oh my gosh.
I showed up the first day, and it was pallet rack. Like if you've ever been to Lowe's or like a storage warehouse, it's all of those racks. So I was selling those lockers, like industrial materials.
What?
And I totally crushed it.
Coming from babysitting, now you're selling like industrial materials.
Yep.
Because you showed a guy that you could sell his bike that was in storage.
Yep. Apparently I got it. So I ended up doing that. And then I was in sales from there on out. And what I realized, I had a really good knack for figuring out what someone really wanted. Not what they said they wanted, what they really wanted and they really needed.
That's good.
Yeah. So I was working for Gray Bar, an industrial, again, I was in, lighting and electrical materials. And I knew I'd always wanted to be in real estate. And it was another thing that had kind of been sprinkled in over the years.
Did you want to be in real estate to the capacity of listing homes, or did you want to be in real estate for like the investing aspect? Like what drew you to real estate?
Investing. And I realized I didn't have the income to provide me. So I was making about $50K a year plus commissions.
Sure.
The commissions were like few and far between because it was all commercial, right? You had to be in it for like 4 or 5 years to really move
the relationships, and there's only a certain amount of contracts per year that you're going to get.
Yep. And it was very determined on those really good contracts. So I was like, I don't really like this. And I don't like the office space mentality of, the PTS reports. And it's like, okay, I don't want to have to run it up the line to go have coffee with someone. I'm building relationships. So
right.
I wanted to invest, and I'd always want to invest. My mom always talked about investing. She didn't really do it, but it had just kind of been discussed for so long. I was like, I want to do this thing and I need the money. So I realized if I became a real estate agent, I could get the commissions. And everybody was like, why don't you go commercial? It's more money. I said, because I've been in commercial in a different industry.
Isn't that funny though? I feel like we get that so much.
Yeah.
Like, even like my wife's grandma, like she'll mention that to me. She's like, there's a lot of money in commercial real estate. I'm like, Grandma, what are you talking about? We're flipping houses. We're buying but she still has that mentality of like, you should be a commercial agent.
It's $4 million. You get a commission on that. And it's true. Like I know some great commercial agents, but again, it takes the time. And in my mind, I wanted to get into the quick hits. Like I wanted to get commissions quick so I can go do investing. And again, the only thing I knew was like, you could flip houses or hold them. Like that was the depth to which I knew how to do this. And I got into real estate and I basically put my head down and said, I need to make this work. I'm going to give it 1 year. If in 1 year I don't make at least $50,000, which is what I was making previously, I'm out. Like if I give it my all and I'm not making it, this obviously wasn't meant to be. Sure. And I think that's the key piece where a lot of people don't make it in that first year, right? We hear that all the time. There's a certain percentage of agents that just don't make it their first year.
Most agents.
Yep. Yep. So the challenge with that is, how did I not become that person? And that's what I realized. Most people, it's their side hustle, right? Mm-hmm. If you want your side hustle to be your main hustle, you need to focus on it.
That's the truth. Like one foot in, 1 foot out. It's so hard to get like any traction. Yeah. And I had the same thing with like my traditional real estate business. When I was trying to get into investing, I was trying to do both. Yeah. And both businesses were lacking. I couldn't do both. And that's what's so great. I know we'll get into this in a second, but that's what's so great about you and Ryan is you guys like have the perfect tandem. Like you can focus on one thing while he focuses on the other,
Yeah, exactly. And that's the biggest thing where I knew, and my boss even begged me to stay at Gray Bar. He was like, please stay on. You're a great salesperson. I'm like, he goes, do both. And I was like, all right. So for literally a month, I tried to do both. And when I got that first phone call where I was in a training and he was like, where are you? I was like, I can't do this. Like, I feel guilty. I feel like I'm cheating on you. Like I don't even want to be here. Like you're paying me money and I don't even want to be here. I'm quitting completely. And that's where it really started. And that's
a big leap of faith, but you're like, you got to go all in.
You got to go all in. It's burning the bridges, burning the boats, burn the bridges, burn it down. Because if you have that 1 foot in, like literally my dad, I love him to death. But when I told him I quit my job to go do real estate, he's like, that's what high school dropouts do. And I was like, but Dad, there's money. And he goes, I told him there was a pension that my boss was telling me about the pension program. And my dad's a fireman. He has a pension. He's like, can they just keep a spot for you? Like, just in case this doesn't work out.
So funny.
Yeah. So
just like, don't understand, you know, it's like, don't feel bad for me, Dad. I know what I'm doing.
Anybody that's experiencing that with like a family member or a spouse or someone who's saying those things, it's not
who's ever experienced that. Anyone watching who has ever experienced that, had a family member or a spouse or someone who just doesn't understand. And maybe they like don't even know that they're like trashing your dreams, even though you believe it, they may not understand. Gosh, that is so relatable. That hits me in my soul for sure.
Well, now here's the thing. And a lot of people take it personally. I understood where it was coming from. He wanted to protect me, right? That's what parents, spouses, they want to protect you from possible danger. Yeah. And something that's risky is dangerous. Whereas for me and Ryan, when I told him, like, look, I might not have any income for like 3 months. Are you okay with that? And I had a little bit saved, but not much. And I'm always, and I still am one that I don't like anybody covering for me, even if it's my husband. I'm like, no, I'm going to make my own way. I'm going to pay my own, part of the mortgage, that kind of thing.
Right.
And it pushed me to be successful. Like there was no other option. Like my option was going back to Gray Bar and I couldn't do it. I didn't want to. I didn't like that life. I didn't like how I felt. I didn't want to.
You also had like the I told you so from like your dad as well. And you're like, I'm not going to let that happen.
I told you it wasn't going to happen. Did you get another job? Yeah. And the job was not for me. Like I knew in my soul that was not for me. And to kind of encapsulate that, it was a podcast of a podcast, right? So it was a gal that I follow. I know her. She had mentioned she was driving to work. She was a teacher, and this is going to connect, I promise, and you guys are going to get goosebumps. She was driving to work, listening to a podcast. She was a teacher. The gal on the podcast was a teacher. And the guy was asking her about her side hustle. And he said, if you made this your main focus for 1 year, just 1 year, and it didn't work out, what's the worst case scenario? Her response to that was, well, if my worst case scenario, I just go back to teaching. And he said, so how does it feel living in your worst case scenario? And she said, what do you mean? He goes, well, you just said your worst case, if it didn't work out, you go back to teaching. That was your worst case. So how does it feel living in your worst case scenario? Right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Yeah. That is like, so true though. I've never even, I've never thought about it that way, but that is so true. Like sometimes we're afraid of just committing, right? And going all in on something. But like, we don't even realize sometimes that we're sabotaging ourselves. We're living our worst case scenario. That's crazy. That's so true though.
Yeah. So, and it was funny. I only heard that recently. I'm sitting there going, holy crap, because I'm launching this coaching company and I have my, my little hesitations, my little, demons in your head that are saying, but will you make it? And just replaying that in my head of, well, what is it like living in your worst case scenario? Like my worst case, okay, I keep selling houses, right? So as you're starting to leverage, you got to keep thinking that. What is my worst case? If your worst case is where you are right now, then there's something better on the other side. Even if it just shifts that much, it's getting you closer to where you want to go. And that's where I just realized I was like, all right, all my cards are in. I am all in. I am doing real estate. And from there, it just multiplied. And it's been a road. I mean, it's never going to be smooth. Anybody that tells you they have it all together and it's been perfect.
Never.
I'm sure you've had plenty of experience, whether it's employees or clients or what have you. It's all over the place. It's never
always.
Yeah.
Always. But I mean, that's definitely a part of the journey, but you got to say like, man, the upside of the opportunity is like, and we want to live a life without regrets.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want to get to the point of our life and be like, dang, I really wish I should have gone for it. And we can't fault our previous generations or our parents or our grandparents because that's all they know. Right. It was also just so normal. It was so normal that you would get a job. Like my granddaddy worked at a chemical plant for 40 years and that was just like the normal thing.
Yeah.
You get a job and that's what you do.
Yeah.
But now it's like we live in a world of just infinite options, which can be difficult too, to try to pick which one you want to do.
I was about to say that can make it almost as challenging, right? You're like, well, I don't want that 9 to 5, but I don't know where I fit in. I've got 4 options. And then I've said this before, I've got ADHD like bad. I didn't realize it till I was an adult and I start seeing like
visionary.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. These are the symptoms. Oh, I'm a visionary. Okay. That's part of it. Oh, I can't pick one thing to do. Got it. Oh, I sit for 4 hours trying to decide which thing to take action on and don't do anything.
Preach.
Noted. So it's everybody's got their challenges. It's showing up and moving the needle a little bit, even if it's a little bit, and giving yourself the grace that it wasn't perfect. Like I was recording earlier some ads, like ad videos. 4 in, I always do them like one cut wonders, right? And by the last one, I'm like, dude, that was sick. Use that one.
Yes. But it's like, it's making those little incremental changes. And that really, like, it sucks because it's like, it sounds better in theory just to go mess up and then correct your mistakes. But still, like, even me, I'm just like, I don't like messing up. But we know it's just a part of the process, right? It's definitely a part of the process. It's just like, again, I wish there was just like some pill or just some shot that you could take that it was like, bam, I do this. Now I'm in action mode. Exactly. I'm going to go take action and I know I'm going to mess up. I'm just going to make it happen. So like fast forward, you've done like so many cool things since you said you made $120,000 your first year in the business and you've been in real estate for 6 years. Like what have you been able to accomplish like since that time?
Oh, shoot. So it's been an ebb and flow, right? So I went from 120 to like 237, kicking butt. Side note.
You doubled your income the next year?
Doubled my income the next year.
Golly.
I'm going to note though, I had almost nothing to show for it by the end of the year because I did what most people do who've never managed that much money before. Now, I didn't get like a new car, new shoes, but I got to the end of the year. I'm like, where's all my money? Like I see what I made. By the way, again, I wasn't tracking my numbers. I didn't have a P&L statement.
You didn't have a bookkeeper?
I had nothing. I had nothing. I had an accountant that at the end of the year, I just like dumped it on our desk and I was like, make the best of it. Like I had no idea what I was doing.
And they're like, okay, Kaila, there's going to be a large tax bill.
Yep. Basically, I was like, oh, so that went to taxes. Great. That's cool.
Oh my gosh.
So then my third year in real estate, I actually took a hard dip. Like I tried to focus in on an investor and this investment group that wanted to hire me and doing this. And I stopped making calls. Now, if anybody's been in that position where they take a break from making calls, and if that's your main source and it's just you, things come to a grinding halt. Yes. And, you know, I was able to recoup and get back on it, but I dropped all the way back down to like 150. I was pissed. I was so pissed.
What an awful place to drop back down to.
I know. And it was one of those things though, like when you get used to something or you've hit, for me, if I hit an achievement level, that's my new bottom, right? I should be higher. I shouldn't double back, right? I shouldn't go back to year one.
100% with it.
And I was doing a lot of work, right? Like I did a lot of work and I'm going, I have nothing to show for it. I had something to show for it, but not what I anticipated.
But you got some lessons in there, right?
There were some major lessons, which anybody that's watching right now, note the lessons that you go through or the difficult things, because guess what? They're going to come back around. And you're going to know how to handle it better than you did the first time.
Yes.
So much better.
That's good right there, guys. Say that one more time.
You're going to screw up. It's going to happen. But take note of how you handled it, because you're going to know how to handle it better the next time. And sometimes it's the universe handing you like little things, right? And sometimes it's major roadblocks where you're like, I don't know how this happened to me. I don't know where I'm at right now. Like we got to a point where we had $6,000. Ryan left his job because he was going to come join this business too. Right. Yeah. And we got a new car. So we look great doing this business. All things that I would recommend don't do unless you have a better plan.
Lessons again, 90. You guys $90,000 in lessons, right? That was $90,000 in education.
Oh yes. So at the end of that though, we got to a point where it was like, all right, we're looking at $6,000 in our bank account right now. Like I've got enough to pay my assistant and I've got 2 upcoming closings, but like it was not looking great. Ryan got an amazing job, right? The universe swoops in. He got this awesome job at Duke. It was great. Like over the next 3 years, we went from having $6,000 in our bank account, making like 140,000, which yes, if you're trying to figure out where that money went, yes, it got spent.
Money management. I'm an excellent money manager.
So we went from that to this year together doing about $625,000.
What?
So major shifts.
Yes. And I think that stuff can't be overstated though, or even understand. You like that lesson that you learned. You're like, hey, we got to be better with our money. We're making a bunch of money, but we're spending a bunch of money. So, hey, like you said, I even saw you made a post on Facebook the other day. You're like, you know, if you can't manage $1, you definitely can't manage $1 million, right? No. So it's the habits around the money that we do make. Like like I know plenty of high earners in my life. I know a lot of people who make a bunch of money, but like live like they're broke because they spend every single dollar.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. And I had to get back to some of my old habits, which I'm a hoarder of money, which you wouldn't know in my first 2 years of real estate. But I used to be the person like in college, we'd go out and I'd say, I can't, I'm broke. I don't have money. And Ryan one day finally got mad at me. We were friends all through college. He goes, Kaila, you have money. Stop saying you're broke. You have it. You just don't want to spend it. And I was like, yes, but if I say I'm broke, I won't know that I have money to spend and therefore I'll save it. Like that was
I'm in the same boat as you. I like looking at it. You know? Look at it. I know we're good.
I just want to check it and touch it and be like, so I did that. So that year where that major shift happened though, was getting back, not necessarily into coaching, but it was getting into a mastermind, right? It was getting into that mastermind that we're in. It was getting around other people and then getting things straight. Like my introduction into the mastermind was, you know, learning my financial everything. Like I'd never been taught any of this. And I was almost kind of mad when I got done with it. Like,
right.
I'm supposed to do this with my money. Like no one ever told me that. Or
why don't they teach anyone these things?
Because they want us to get jobs.
Right. So, even with jobs, we spend money on dumb things.
Yes.
And then we wonder like why we can't get the things that we want. Exactly. It's like we just have like bad habits when it comes to money. And like, you're right. Like being around people that are high income earners, but also just wealthy. Like you can make a bunch of money, but not be wealthy. but be around folks that like have those good habits. It's like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this whole thing wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And like
By the
learning
way,
about books like Secrets of the Millionaire Mind and these
love you.
strategies, like it changes everything.
And people aren't going to pick at you or make fun of you. Like that was
Mhm.
one of my biggest insecurities joining a group like that was, well, I just had a dip. Like I'm going to say that out loud and they're going to think I'm lesser or, I don't know how to do that or I'm not at that level. And the funny thing is people that are in groups like masterminds, they get joy out of not only learning from others, but teaching others. Like that's the coolest part
Mm.
about it. And I got more out of that than a one-on-one coach. To be perfectly honest, right? Like my one-on-one coach when I was early in my career was like, okay, what's your numbers? I'm really tired of this conversation. Like, can we talk about leverage and growth and like mindset? And it was the mindset and financial piece that got integrated to my hustle, right? That was my leveraging pieces. Like those were the pieces that allowed me to shift from just hustling day in and day out and being almost exhausted and wanting to get out of the business. Because I considered it. I was like, there's got to be an easier way.
Yeah.
The mindset, the energy shift, and understanding how to manage money appropriately, that's what accelerated me. Like that's what catapulted it. And when I look at my bank account, I'm like, oh my God, where's my money? And then I have to go, oh wait, because it's in this account and this account and this account. It's in crypto. I've got it staked in time. I've got a couple of rental properties. We just purchased this. Like this is being wholesold. Like there's different things we're doing to move the money because if your money sits, it's losing. You're only gaining more money if it's constantly moving.
Or it will find a home somewhere.
Somewhere.
Which is normally Uber Eats, yes, all the things, right?
I will say I've never seen anybody order Uber Eats for Starbucks. And you and Cody, it is the funniest thing I've ever seen. That is my, you know what? But here's the thing. Everybody's got their little thing that they're okay and love spending money on. Like for me, it's food. I will spend bukus of money on food because I love the experience. Like I love to eat, but I'll walk around the house with Uggs with a rip in the front of it for like 3 years. Like Ryan literally had to go, Kaila, what did you make this year? This was like last year. And I told him, he goes, and I'm asking, I'm like, looking at him like, you know that. Like, why are you asking me that? He goes, can you please buy new Uggs?
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I love it because I can relate to that so much. Like I was like in the living room like a month ago. And like, we Uber Eats a coffee, which is like turns it into like a $20. It's already an expensive coffee. Now it's like a $20 coffee, but I enjoy making money to be able to do those things. But here I am wearing mixed match socks, don't even have matching socks. Like, can I go buy more socks? Yes. Why don't I have more socks?
Yeah. Oh, I'm right there. I am right there. It's like the little things that you're okay with spending the money on. And some things are just like, no, even if they're practical. So but it's finding that balance. Like you also know how much you have allocated to potentially spend on that. And I'm not as good. I don't think you are either as like knowing the exact cent of what you spent over the last 3 days on coffees, but you've got a vague enough idea of, okay, it's okay for me to splurge on this. Like it's okay for me to go get, what are the acai bowls? Those are things that are okay for me to do. And I have to let myself do that. Like getting my nails done, getting a massage. I used to see that as, oh my God, that's frivolous. Like, why would I do that? I can't tell anybody I'm getting my nails done. Gosh forbid, because I was always taught do your own nails. You know what I mean? Like, got to get over that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sharing the book title here with you guys that are watching. It's called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. So we're talking about not just making a bunch of money. We're talking about keeping a bunch of money and having strategies behind how do you keep more money. So you went from 120K and like everyone just wants to talk about their wins, right? They forget that the juicy part, the good part, they got you to, you don't just all of a sudden go from 120 to 620.
It's like magic.
Right? And like just have like everything's perfect. I just made an extra 500,000 on my income. There's a lot of lessons. Like you said, you had to dip and you learned great things during that process. And then like, when was the time where you really started building out like, hey, Ryan, we need some help? Like when did that part happen?
So what ended up happening was I got my first hire actually my second year, and my first assistant did not quite work out. She decided to take a vacation while I was on vacation, which didn't work for me. But my next assistant was amazing, and he's actually probably going to be coming back onto the team at some point here in the future, which was great. But I got that leverage, and at first I was kind of hesitant making the hire, and the reason for that was I didn't have the perfect systems. I didn't have the perfect everything. I couldn't hand them a book and be like, here's the thing. So I started working on it. And if anybody has ever read Rocket Fuel, go read it, figure out what you are. I am not an implementer. Okay. Like the idea of sitting down and writing a manual is like, just stick me with like knives. Like I would rather do something else entirely. Like I don't even care what it is. So I'm a visionary, which means I've got the ideas, but I want to like blah onto somebody and let them figure it out.
Right. And what's cool is the book will also show you that it's okay to be that way.
Yes.
Because the world will tell you that you need to be writing the manual, that you need to be doing all these things, that if you just audit your day, why did it take you 3 months to write a manual that would take someone 12 hours?
Yeah.
You know, there's wisdom in that, right?
It's being okay with who you are, which is some of the challenges me even doing my coaching company, because I'm like, well, I feel like I need to lay this whole thing out. And you know what? Just put me on camera. I wing it, but I wing it really well because the things just start flowing out of my mouth and I'm teaching and I enjoy it. And we just capture that and roll it into a program. And that's what it takes. So I hired this guy with absolutely no plan. And for the first 2 weeks, he kind of just sat there. Like I would give him a couple of things and teach him a couple of things. But before we knew it, he was pulling stuff off of my plate. Like, hey, Kaila, you shouldn't be doing that right now. Give it to me. Or, hey, can you run out and do this thing? And then he would build a system for it. And then we got checklists. And then we got our pink sheets. And then we got, how are we doing our filing system? But he figured all that out and was able to build it out while I could run and do what I was best at, which was talking to people, converting leads, and going on appointments. Like that was my strength.
Amazing.
So from there, it kind of morphed. I would say our biggest shift, which sounds crazy, but our biggest shift was in 2020. It was a very interesting year, and a year that, you know, as we hit March, everybody was, the sky is falling. And not to downplay, I know a lot of people got hurt during that time, but as a business owner, I had just brought on 3 agents onto my team at the same time. I brought them all on within, I think it was between like December and February. They all came on. And they had all come in. We were running Hops and Home Buying, which we're going to launch that program here soon, on how you can gain buyer leads as well as listing leads through online webinars. So I had launched that as a live in-person at a brewery.
Oh my gosh.
So I did my first one. We had phenomenal, by the way, we ended up closing 90% of the people that came to that.
What?
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So
you guys are riding this high. You got new agents. You had this new program, the first event. You crushed that first event.
It was awesome, right? And we end up, Corona hits. And I'm kind of sitting there and I'm like, yeah, this is BS, whatever. I'm going to keep going. And you can ask Ryan this. Ryan, he explains to anyone that's questioning, like, oh, Kaila didn't come. Why didn't she come? Well, when Kaila doesn't want to do something, Kaila doesn't do something. Like, I'm very, this is what I'm doing. This is the thing. Nothing's getting in my way. That's just how I am. And what ended up happening was we went away to Florida for 4 days. And the whole time, like, beaches are getting shut down, like, while we're there. And I'm like, it's fine. Everything's going to be fine. And it was actually Colton. He got on a call with us. He's like, all right, so things might really be shifting. And I get off the call. It was like an emergency 2-hour call, right? I get off and I'm like, all right, so I think things are shifting. And he goes, good. I didn't want to be the one to tell you because you weren't going to listen to me.
Ryan's like, whew, dodge that one.
Okay.
Maybe someone else told you. You wouldn't listen to me.
Someone else told you. Yeah. Now, here was the thing. It didn't mean that I was crawling up in a hole and saying, oh no, the sky is falling. Instead, it just gave me that extra push to make sure not only was my business not going to go on a backslide, but for me, when I bring people on my team, whether they be employees or agents, I have a responsibility to them. They join me to make sure they could keep their business, to make sure they could accelerate their business, that they would have.
You're the fearless leader.
And that's what it was. And where it came to was, I need to figure something out. And I need to figure it out fast. So I had just launched this program and I'm going, okay, how do we make this virtual? So I started doing research on like how to do Facebook ads and like all this other stuff. Mind you, I am not a high C, high S, okay? I am a very high I who has ADHD. I'm a visionary. Like this is.
So here you're trying to watch a bunch of videos of how to do Facebook ads.
It was the most painful thing I think I've ever done. And but my goal was I have to keep my team fed with leads. I have to keep them fed with education and training. And right at that same time, then the office space that we were was like a co-working space closed. They were like, you got to go, you got to get out. I was like, we're essential employees. They said, we don't care. You're out. You got to keep paying rent though, but you're out.
Wow.
And we then had to shift even further where it was like, okay, now we're working from home separate, which I don't know if anybody's on a team, but the energy that you get when you're
Not
in
the same
space, yeah. So I shifted to, okay, 1 hour calls every day from 8 to 9, like keeping that momentum and that energy going. And then we shifted to online webinars. And what we would do is we'd rotate the team members out. So it was every single Thursday. Now, mind you, they weren't running it themselves. It was me. So what would happen was I would run the ads all week. I'd set up the ads, run the ads. I created the workbook. I'd get them on a Thursday night. I'd send out all the text messages to all the people that registered, sometimes like 60 people. And of course, I'm independently texting all of them from my Google Voice and sending the pre-email, sending the current email. Gosh. Thank you, email, like all me.
Show up.
Literally. And I mean, it helped though. Like sending out those reminders helped so much.
1,000%.
And then I'd get an agent on, one of the agents from our team, and I would run the entire webinar. And I'd like offer opportunities for them to chat a little bit so they could connect, because at the end of the webinar, anyone that came or didn't come, I'd do Eventbrite that would get phone number, email, and name. So we had 3 different ways of contacting them, right? So we could text or call, and we can email. And I would give them,
it's better than an open house. I don't know.
Oh, it's like having the open house view from your living room. Like literally, even when things opened back up, we kept doing it that way because it was just way simpler, and I didn't have to buy everybody a beer. So
I love it. And you guys probably had people showing up, and you're talking about things because everyone, like even sellers, are probably showing up because they're like nervous, like what's going to happen with my house? What's going to happen with the market? What do we do?
Exactly. And what ended up happening was, because of that, we hit the highest numbers we had ever hit. It was absolutely incredible. 2020, we did $477,000 in revenue.
Let's go. It
was like
a little crowd noise.
Yeah, it was insane. Like I got to the end of the year and I was like, I had goosebumps. Like, oh my God, look what we did. And it was in the time, I think what made it even better is in a time that we were told from the beginning of the year when March hit, you're not going to be successful. The market's going to crash. People are running away. But we found a way, and people still had a desire. So we would work around it. Like I'd call listing agents, be like, hey, so I know we're not supposed to show houses, but if we just show up and walk in while your clients aren't there, would they be okay with that? You know what I mean? And like do it.
Yeah.
Like we had to keep our clients going. They had to be out of their houses. We needed to find them houses. Like we had to do whatever we had to do.
For sure. And I think during that time too, that first couple months, like March, April, May, June, there's just like so much uncertainty, which led to like a tremendous amount of opportunity because like most people paused. So for those who were like, yo, I'm going harder right now, like we made the most money in 2020, like during those months.
Oh yeah. Because they were very highly motivated too. Like if they were out, they were motivated. And the cool thing is for our buyers, there was less competition because some of them were hiding. And some of them were at like, let's make this happen right now. You know, I'm stuck in my apartment and I realize I don't want to be here 24/7. I want a house. And so it exploded. And then from there, it was an ebb and flow, right? Like agents came on the team, they left the team. They came on the team. I had to excuse them from the team. Like there was a lot of changes that
happens, right? People, especially salespeople, people be people, salespeople be salespeople. But I think that something you just touched on just now is that you excuse from the team. Like, how do you know when you should excuse someone from the team? They probably don't fit your culture, right?
It's a little bit of everything, right? So I've made the mistake of keeping someone on that didn't meet the culture. That gave you almost like when they come in, you're like, oh, they're here, but they sold houses, right? Like the opportunity I gave them, they would jump on it. And that's challenging as a business owner because
that is so hard.
Yeah. When you've got some agents that they just aren't cutting it, but they're really nice and they fit the culture. And then you've got this agent that doesn't fit the culture, but they're pulling in the money. If you are newer into running a team, you can sometimes lean into that and lose good people who just need more nurturing because they don't like what the culture is becoming.
Here's the reality. Like we can teach the skills, right? but I can't teach an attitude. And
No.
we just released one of our own salespeople internally, like over the last month and a half. And it was
Yeah.
because and I told him, look, I don't care how much you produce.
Yeah.
I don't care how much money you make. And this is tough. This is so hard to do because
Mhm.
you see that check at the end of the month and you see the revenue is generated by the business. Cause look, we're in business to make money. Don't get me wrong. But as we're building a business and building a team is two different things, but they
Yeah.
have to work together. Right. So
Yep.
you have that person that may be producing like what you're saying, but if they're awful to work with, if they're toxic, if they're just like
Yep.
I can't be around this person, it creates a log jam. Like no one else can work with them, and everyone else who would eventually like maybe take on more roles
They
really
leave.
they don't even want to. Maybe they want to go work somewhere else, and that goes back into the options, right? People have
Yep.
infinite options. Why would I want to work here with this person? So
Well,
that's hard.
and it's one of the biggest challenge I faced, right? So you've got some of the people who are like, oh my God, you gotta go, right? And they're not producing, they don't show up. And in this case, especially in the business that we're in, one of the other mistakes I made was seeing it as I wanted everybody to win, right? So I wanted everybody to see it as running their own business under my umbrella, providing them the transaction coordinator, people that are going and getting photos, listing uploads, all that provided to them, including leads. All they had to do was call and go on appointments. Once they got it
Mm.
signed, basically the team handles the rest. And I was so excited to offer that. And yet some people didn't see the value, right? So they weren't
Mm.
showing up, they weren't calling the leads. And after a while, like I felt like my mom. Like, have you ever noticed that when you're running a business, you're like, I know how my mom felt when she was asked for like the 15th time to clean up my room.
Oh my
you
gosh.
know, that's how I started feeling. I'm like, I get it. Okay, I'm sorry, mom.
Right, it's like, how do you not understand? I've already said this.
Go do
But like,
this
yeah,
and you'll
Cody
get this.
says like, hey, you got to say set things 7 times for someone to hear it once. And I say it might be double that. It might be triple that, but it's the truth. You do feel
Oh,
like
yeah.
it. You'll feel that way.
Yeah. And we've had some that have transitioned nicely and some that have been not so great. There's been recent ones where it's like, okay, let's lay out what's expected. So as
Mm.
I've gone, things have changed so much than when I first started my team, right? Like it's constantly changing. And at this point, I'm even starting to leverage even more. So
Mm.
last year in late 2020, I made the decision I'm going to have my own EA, basically my assistant,
Yep.
and a transaction coordinator. Because what I realized was my TC and my EA were the same person for a long time. But as I built the team, I didn't want my needs to come over the team members getting listings uploaded and clients being able to be followed up with. So I said, let me
Right.
split it because I actually do need help. Like I want to do other things. I want someone to be able to answer my emails again. So I split that role. And where a lot of people have that fear, which I did too, was, oh crap, now it's 2 salaries. Right.
Mm.
And they look at the overall number versus what is this costing me weekly, but what am I getting back? So for me,
What am I getting back?
what am
Mm.
I getting back? I got more opportunity for coaching, to coach others, more opportunity to go out of town. Like this last week, I think I posted it. I think we were out of town 14 weeks this year. Like that's a
Yeah.
long time. Like it wasn't stacked, it was
Yeah, but
throughout
that's
the year.
dope. That's like 3 months that you
Yep.
guys were able to take away from your business and actually to actually unplug, you
Yeah.
know?
And when I look at it, it's like, okay, well, if I look what I made in revenue plus, a little bit or my revenue share plus what I put into stocks, like all that came out to look great, but it wasn't my true goal that I wanted to hit. And I had to sit back and think, yeah, but I've taken more time out of my business and still exceeded or surpassed what I did last year. So for me, that was a huge win.
Right.
So why not? And then
How would you have felt if you would had generated an extra $200,000, $850,000, but had not gotten a single day off all year?
yeah,
52 weeks, 7 days a week, no time, always working. Like, would that have
what's
been
the
worth the
point?
trade-off?
What's the point? And
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. You can hustle all day long, but if you don't start
Mm.
leveraging yourself, like literally my assistant and my transaction coordinator pretty much handle all of my deals right now. I put them together, I put them on their desk and they run with it. And that's all
Amazing.
that we need to do at this point. So I can coach my agents on helping them, help them get more leads. So now new leads that come in go to my agents, and then I just work like past clients, friends, family, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And if it's a buyer, I still give it to my agents, like even if it is a referral, because I know I'm not going to have the time or really want to spend the time to show them a house. I might go out to 1 or 2 just to be like, hey, I'm really here and I love you guys. But at the
How
end of
good
the
is
day,
it to be able to say no to things though?
yes,
You know?
it's amazing. It's amazing. And anybody that's watching this, you'll get to that point as long as you stay focused. So I think the biggest other proud moment was when Ryan could leave his job and it didn't hurt us at all. Like literally,
Wow. That's
he was like,
dope.
he was
That's
like
dope.
juices, and then we took like 2 weeks off right after, and then he dove into wholesaling. So we've got a new structure for our company. I with EXP Realty can't wholesale, but the nice thing is, just like you and I were just talking about, splitting that focus. Me splitting that focus between 2 different things was not going to be a good idea anyway.
No.
So Ryan, especially coming out and doing the training with you and Cody, he had kind of gotten into a little bit a few years prior, but didn't really focus on it, but also didn't have anybody. I mean, he was watching Max Maxwell, but it's really different from that versus starting to get into it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I think it was in March that we had the Utah get together and you were kind enough to sit down at a table with me and you're like, okay, sign up for all this stuff, do this, this, and this. And it was super vague, right? So here's me, hi, give me like 40% of the information and I'll just start running with it and figure it out. Right. Ryan is not that person. Ryan is more of like a Cody. Like he wants to know what we're doing, why we're doing it, for how long, how much does it cost, what does it do, So literally we're sitting there. I come home as usual and just like vomit this information all over him. And I'm like, this. We're doing this. We're signing up. And we hired like our first VA just shortly after that. And I'm like, we're going to do this and this and this. I think it was November. And we're literally signing up for stuff. And he's looking at me going, why? Well, what do we do after that? I'm like, I don't know, but this is the first step. So we're just going to do it. I love him so much. He was so patient because I couldn't answer those questions.
Amazing. That was good. But you're the action taker. You're making it happen.
Just do it. Let's just dive in. And he got more comfortable with it. And then going to the mastermind event really sunk it in. Like he came back super stoked, understanding, he needed that understanding, but it helps that we dove in not knowing, because by the time we got to that point, we could ask pertinent questions, not how do I sign up for Podio? It was, okay, well, my ISA is doing this or this or this. Here's where we're doing it. How can we structure better? Like we were asking more pertinent questions. So if you're nervous about something, just dive in, figure out where your weaknesses are, and then work on it. You don't have to have, and you'll never have all the
It's that ready, fire, aim.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Literally.
And it's crazy because like theoretical questions won't get you anywhere. I'm sure you had the same thing with agents that join your team.
Oh,
yeah. You have people, from salespeople that come and join our team. They ask like, well, what if this and this, 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 and this? I'm like, are you encountering this challenge right now? No. But I was just curious, like, just go do the thing.
Yeah. Come to me when that actually happens, which will never happen because it hasn't happened in years. Let me know. Yeah. So now at this point, we've expanded. My brother, Ryan hired my brother. So they're actually upstairs above me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We have a house we rent. So it's a commercial. So it's nice because my team's on the first floor. They're up on the second floor. And they run a team. I think they have at this point like 5 or 6 VAs from Start Virtual. And then my team, I've got 2 agents, my admin, my TC, and we hired a VA who is doing all of my social media. Now, when I say that, when you see my face, it is really me in videos and photos. He's just making sure it's like edited and actually put onto the internet. Because as we have already established, I'm not good at those things. So he's making sure it gets out there.
That's so good. That is so good. And like, with all that, like they have 6 VAs in their business in the wholesale side. You have 2 agents and you have a VA that's managing your social media. Guess who's not making phone calls anymore? You're not making phone calls. And like, I can't believe that's probably not the highest and best use of your time now, right?
Yes. And I'm one of those leaders. I have those days where like I miss it, and this is something that a lot of leaders slip back into. No one's going to care about your business as much as you do. Mm-hmm. So you have to understand no one's going to put in the effort that you do. No one is going to show up as early as you do. No one is going to stay as late as you do. You have to, and I had to get okay with that and understand that as long as we're meeting the goals we have and we keep layering on more people, that's what's going to hit it. It's not about quantity. It's about quality.
Right. It's not their business. They shouldn't care as much as you.
Exactly.
Right? But at the same time, it's like, what was the highest and best use of your time 6 years ago right, is no longer the highest and best use of your time. And so many times we get stuck in this rut thinking that that's all we can do. And I
Mhm.
see it so much in the realtor space too, not just the real estate investors, but obviously in general, but I see a lot of realtors who learned that they need to prospect, right? And they're like almost like pound their chest that I do 3 hours of prospecting a day. Hey man, if you want to go to the next level, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the highest and best use of your time. You've been in real estate for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So like I love that you were able to get that off your plate.
Well, and it's digging into what you love. I'm one of those weirdos. I still love getting on the phones. Like, I kid
Mhm.
you not. Like, I'll have a list. So what ends up happening too, upstairs in our acquisitions department, so they do flips, renos, and wholesale.
Yep.
If those leads they're getting in are not great for wholesale or sub two or any of those creative financing options, and they can't sell it, they'll send it to us. So we've gotten a couple deals that have closed just because it's trickling down to fit the best department. And that's been
Yes.
really cool because then I'm getting really hot leads. So I'm not just calling expires, FISBOs, circle prospecting. I'm getting the guy that's like, yeah, I want an offer on my house, but I want the full price. I'm like, I can get you that. And
Right.
so I still kind of dabble in it
And
a little bit just because I enjoy the process. I enjoy like pulling out
that's
those
fun.
needs and wants from people. So it's fun for me. So if that's something that's fun for you and that's your best, highest producing job, do it. But make sure you get the other stuff off your plate. That's the idea.
Yes.
You
Ooh, I love that. And
have
that's
to-
cool because you guys get to really maximize the leads that Ryan and those guys generate, right?
Yeah.
From their VAs, the leads that come through. You guys are like, okay, we may not be the best fit up here. Most wholesalers and fix and flippers, they'll throw that stuff away,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
But you might generate an extra $100,000 a year off those leads.
Exactly. We've got one that actually, and here's the other thing, keep working the leads. So
Mm.
we've got some that even our wholesale division has resuscitated that came in a year ago. We actually have one, April, our VA through Start Virtual. She's amazing. She actually keeps winning best VA in the company, and we're super
Hey.
proud of her.
Yeah.
So she actually pulled one last April. That's how long ago this was.
Mm.
I say last April, this past April, that I'm finally getting under contract. Like, it literally took that long of follow-ups, but it was those
Yeah.
touches, and he was finally ready to actually do something. Nobody else
Right.
was calling him anymore. No wholesalers were calling him anymore. I told him I could get him more, and he was like, okay. And here we are, January.
Isn't that crazy? That
Mm-hmm.
is that's so incredible because I love that story because it's so true. Like even our internal business, we got a deal this past Tuesday that we'll probably make like 120 grand on, like net on the
Nice.
deal. But it was a lead that we followed up with 108 times. I tracked the call
Oh my
logs on the
gosh.
lead, right? But that's how it goes. Like we're
Yes.
not in the business of convincing anyone. It's a yes or a no. But everyone who's in that maybe not right now, great. We're gonna touch base. We're gonna follow up. And like what you're saying is that was 8 months of follow-up to
Yep.
generate the business, but you already paid for the lead. That's the point of building a
Already had
pipeline.
it. Like, a lot of people, they'll go digging for, hey, I'm going to pay $16,000 a month for Zillow. And I know agents who do that in my market. And that's
Mhm.
great. That's their model, right? Everybody's going to have their own model. For
Yep.
me, I can't stand spending money on things that are looky-loos. Like, it drives me bananas. So to have a lead that, in my opinion, is isolated, they're not looking anywhere else because we directly reached out to them. And I'm
Mhm.
not calling the 8,000 numbers a day that it took to get to that,
Yeah.
right? That little bit of follow-up's not a big deal. Like, my biggest deal I ever did was $2.8 million. And I checked the logs. I'd called them 18 times over a year and a half.
Amazing.
18 times. But that's what
Yep.
it took, right? No one else
Yeah.
was calling by the time they were like, you know what? I think we're ready. Like, I think we've had enough like chill time. Let's go do this thing. And I was the only agent they met with. Actually, they met with one other one, but it was like a
Yeah.
small boutique and they weren't really interested. They were just doing it because the guy kept calling.
But by that time, you had already built so much of a relationship. You checked in. Hey, this is Kaila. I know you guys are probably busy, but just checking in to see how you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Right? 18 times.
18 times.
Most people stop after like 2.
Exactly. And real estate is not about having the perfect product, the perfect marketing. It's about having the right timing, right? I
Mm.
mean, I've
Yeah.
even done this. I've had people that have come door knocking on my door about like pest services or whatever, and they have a great shtick and I love it. And I'm like,
Mhm.
one day, man, when I need this, I'm gonna call you. Guess what freaking happens? You get a mouse in the house, or like, you see a weird bug and you're like, that's it. Call whoever is at the top of the Google search. You
Yep.
don't even think about the person who knocked on your door, because we want that immediate solution. So if people already start thinking about it, especially after those first couple of calls, guess what? Their RAS starts going. They start hearing about more people selling their houses. They pay more attention to the market. They're not going to call you back. You have to show back up. And that's when you're going to get the business.
And then you got to say, hey, hope I got the right time.
Exactly.
Right. But you got to be consistent.
If not, I'll call you next week.
That's so cool. So like you guys are obviously hammering away, like building a virtual assistant team, like what Ryan has going on. And obviously like your real estate business is like really taking off and you guys are crushing it. Like going to be finishing. I mean, y'all might finish over 700 this year. Like
I did the numbers. I think legitimately we're going to be at like 625, but we just started a new company. We took 14 weeks off. And for me, I'm like, that's awesome. But the other thing that I had to kind of talk to myself about today was taking a look, because I run spreadsheets of, where our deals are, how much in commissions, and it also will automatically for me tell me what's going into each of my buckets and accounts in my bank account. So I don't have to think about it. And I was running all that and I was getting pissed off because there were deals that we've got under contract, but they're not closing until January. And I looked at it and I went, you know what though? Last January, February, we had 4 deals and they were all me. This January, February, we've got 100,000 in revenue that's already lined up under contract, ready to close January, first week of February. And it's me and another agent. And it's like 8 weeks. I was like, okay, well, this is pretty nice. I'm okay with this.
Amazing.
Yes. So
that is amazing.
You got to find your wins sometimes, but you also have to give yourself grace. We took a lot of time off. We had some health issues this year. Like there was a lot going on and we still kicked ass, but it was really just consistently focusing on that one thing. Like every day, what is the one thing that's going to move the needle forward? Especially for me, that gets really scatterbrained. I want to conquer the world. I launched a podcast this year.
Let's
started my coaching company, like these things. And I'm still learning, like none of it's perfect. I just was like, okay, let's just start. Like, let's just start.
Here, like, I just feel like I want to learn something from you. If like I wanted in retail real estate, I'll be buying your coaching. I'm like, yes, Kaila, you have the personality. I feel like just like super authentic. And I feel like you'd have like tremendous amount of value to give to people on the coaching side. So that's super dope. That's exciting. Yeah. That, you have all these irons in the fire, but you've been able to really do the things that you want to do. I could like tell, like you get really excited about the coaching thing, but you're able to like really lean into that because you've been able to get things off your plate. Do you think like that's like what you're most proud of?
I think it really is. I'm still not 100% there because I'm still in the business, but I'm now operating the business. And it's a really nice shift to when you can go, well, I go out to a lot of conferences. I have 2 masterminds I'm a part of. I'm about to launch my own. So I do take a lot of time away. So knowing that I have a team set up that steps in and still moves the needle forward is a crucial part to make sure you're building a business. Because let's face it, none of us want to be door knocking at 80 years old. So having a plan and having a business, even if you're just a single agent, get a TC, get someone who's helping you with social, get someone who's helping you as an assistant. So you can focus sometimes on just those 3 hours of calls if that's what you choose to do.
Yep.
And that's it. Like that is your whole job, is make those calls, set the appointment, you get your scripts down, and you're going to get listings left and right.
Bam.
And that's all you do, and let it roll.
Bam. I love it. So like you're really good with people, like being a visionary and like communicating, like, and that's funny because that's like normally the commonality, the common link between most people that are like great at the real estate sales side or just great with like found a tremendous amount of success in real estate. Like I feel like you communicate really well. But what do you think is like your gift, and like why do you think that is?
I think part of what it is, and it was funny, shout out to Brandy if you're ever going to watch this. I'm not sure if she's on right now, but we were actually out on a boat in Boca, and I was like, what do you think my thing is? She goes, you don't know? I was like, I don't know. Like, I kind of do this, I kind of do that. I help people when they need help. And she goes, I know what it is for me. She said, I would sit there, and she goes, and I remember it, vividly. I'm telling you these issues I'm having with my business. And you sit there and you think about it and you look and you go, actually, I think it's this. And then lay out all of these other things that were in my blind spot that I didn't realize were even there. But as you're saying it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is it. Okay, now how do we fix it? So for me, whether it be a seller or a buyer or somebody that I'm coaching, the biggest thing for me is finding their blind spots, because a lot of times we can't see our own blind spot. And sometimes we want to ignore our blind spot. But
so good.
It's almost like when that little, you get that little shatter sound where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't unsee that.
Yes.
That's one of the things that I do for other people, because I can see their blind spot, but I'm willing to tell them where their weakness is. A lot of times it's taboo to tell someone what their weakness is, whereas that's what people hire me for, is to say, here's what we need to work on, and here's the strategy of how we're going to get there.
Sometimes it can be a tough conversation.
Yeah.
Right. To say, hey, I know, like, I love you. Right. I know you're saying this might be the challenge, but honestly, like, it might be this other thing. Man, that's like, oh, that is probably that's what makes a great coach, in my opinion. Like, a lot of people just tell you what you want to hear, but sometimes you have to have someone, and maybe that be a friend, maybe that be a colleague, maybe that be a teammate, something. But like what you're saying, like, it's so powerful to be able to recognize something in someone else, right? That they may not be able to see, and you see that light bulb go off.
That's literally my favorite part about coaching. Like, to see the light bulb go off and see them succeed at that thing that we've been working at. Oh my gosh. Like, I guess I don't have kids, so I guess this is how, like, a proud mom or dad would feel. Like, oh my God, they got it. They did the thing. Like, I love seeing the win. Love seeing the win. Actually, Brandy she took a for sale by owner from me just after I coached her on how to get for sale by owners. They canceled the appointment, couldn't get the other appointment. And I see the house on Facebook. I'm scrolling. I'm like, wait a second, that's the house. And I scroll up to see who listed it. And I'm like, holy crap. And I call her. I'm like, what did you do? How did you do that? She goes, well, I did what you told me to do. And it was like one of those first moments of, oh, wow. Okay. So if people listen and apply what I'm telling them, I'm not telling them BS. Like, it works, like, I know it works.
You can make money.
Yes. So that's one of my happiest pieces. And I think that's why I like coaching. Like, I like solving problems. I like connecting with people, but I love seeing that win at the other side, right? Like, they came from here to here and they're growing. And that's what I'm stoked about.
That feels really good. I can, I can attest to being able to, just our small group that we're able to help people, like, launch their real estate business or from wholesaling, and seeing them get their first deal. It's like, it's not just an aha, but it's like a paradigm shift. Like, oh my gosh, this thing actually works, and I got paid doing it. This is crazy. Like, for your coaching, do you have what can you share with us? Like, how can someone find more information about that?
So I highly recommend you guys follow me on Insta at Kaila Lindsey, just how it's spelled there, realtor. So Kaila Lindsey Realtor. Go ahead and shoot me a DM. We actually do have a link. I don't know if when this gets reposted, if you guys can post the link. I think your assistant got a bit.ly link for you, for me. But it's basically, you guys can get registered in to find more information. I do one-on-one coaching as well as group coaching, but I'm also launching a 5-day 6-figure agent boot camp. Which is going to be, it's going to be the second week in January. So get registered. There's also the option for the VIP, which gets you coaching with me, as well as some of my prized scripts that I use daily.
Oh,
yes. So take a look at that. Highly recommend getting on there, getting a part of the community. But it's one of those things that it's always morphing. It's always changing. And my goal is to help agents go from, just a handful of deals a year to being able to leverage their team. And that's really the goal. Whether you think it is or not, maybe you're just starting, you're like, it's just going to be me. When you get going, you're going to start to realize having a little bit of help is not a bad thing. It's okay to ask for help. And you're actually going to either make more money or make the same amount of money, but get more time back. And the time with my family, my spouse, that was one of the biggest things for me. And
we can make more money, but we can't make more time.
You can't make more time. You can't. And as things will happen in your life, you'll realize it more and more. And this year was definitely one of those years where it's like, you know what? I'm so grateful that I have a team, that I have a support staff, that I have amazing clients and people to be able to give me that time that I need.
Right.
But still serve them. And
and it feels good to serve, right?
Oh yeah. It's amazing. It's fun. It's you realize it sometimes, not all the time. There's been a lot of people this last couple of months that have popped in and been like, well, yeah, of course. Like, you've helped me in this way or this way. And it was things that I didn't even know. And I'm sitting there going, I didn't know I did that. Like, I didn't even remember that, but it had an impact on them and they are still grateful for it. And it's not that I'm going for the kudos. I just like seeing people grow. And like, I didn't even know I had an impact.
Incredible. And then, like, especially that holiday season, you see a team of people that really look up to you, and you get to do cool things like Christmas parties and get-togethers and dinners and stuff. Like, oh, this is so amazing because it's like your vibe attracts your tribe, and you just like, hey, all these people are my people, and that feels so good.
It was amazing. That was another aha. It was last year at Christmas time, and we did for our team. I took everybody out to dinner for Christmas. No like crazy party. It was like still Rona, so I really wanted karaoke. That wasn't an option. And so we went out for beers and like pub kind of food, and we went around the room and like said what we were grateful for. And when we got back in the car, Ryan looked at me and goes, "That was really cool." And I was like, "Yeah, the food was pretty good." I'm like still like chit chatting over like the gift exchange, and he goes, "No, it was really cool to look around a room and realize you are the person that brought all those people together and give the opportunity to put food on their table or be able to take a family vacation or learn how to be a better agent." He goes, "That's pretty cool." And like, I hadn't even seen it. Like, this is one of those things where like, I don't see these things most of the time. I'm just doing my thing. And it kind of sunk in for a minute. And like, I got not like super emotional, but it was like, wow, yeah, this, it just kind of came together. And just don't force it. Like it's going to happen. You just got to keep pushing forward and stop getting distracted.
And I think this whole journey kind of turns into something that you could have never imagined 6 years ago, right?
Oh my God,
six years ago as an agent.
No, I finally, and we've talked about how I wear ripped Uggs around the house, right? And I recently, for the first time ever, it's coming in, it'll be ready for me on Thursday. I bought a brand new vehicle. I've never done that before in my life. I'm still kind of nervous. Side note, great tax write-off. Yes.
I love it.
So it's kind of one of those things where I looked at Ryan, I said, "Would you ever imagine we were buying this vehicle brand new?" Like, I never would have imagined in my life that would happen. He goes, "If you told me that 6 years ago, he'd be like, hell no, we're not doing that." And as you grow and get into different circles and different people, like being around you, being around Cody, being around Colton and Lewis and all of these people, it starts to stretch your membrane of what's possible, right?
Yes.
We see like cribs on TV or like mega yachts, right? And then, like at this point, I'm looking at houses in Melbourne. I can't afford it yet, but I'm like looking at these houses in like Melbourne, Florida. I'm like, oh, like 2.5 mil on the beach. Yeah, we can do that.
Right. You're like,
I'm not there yet.
Right.
But it's completely feasible to me. Like that is that will happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is so good. Like the paradigm shift, and you realize that, hey, these people are great people. They do right in the world, and they make great money.
Yes.
And they're normal people. I can do it
too.
They're
normal people.
Yes, they're normal people. They're not doing any kind of magic, right? There's nothing going on behind the scenes. They're just doing the thing.
That's the thing. It was this paradigm shift for me, and just stretching what was possible to the point where it's just, as you get handed different opportunities, when I say handed, it doesn't mean it's easy, but like, hey, join this mastermind, go to this event, right? Even if it's a little uncomfortable, you're like, I think I'm going to be the littlest fish in the pond, jump in, because it's going to pull you into some uncomfortable places where I, to be honest, I went to this founders event, and there's gals sitting around me that have, $25,000 for 6 months of one-on-one coaching. Like that's what they're charging. And they are smart ladies. And they're like 2 years younger than me. And I'm going, oh, this is an uncomfortable room for me.
Yes.
And yet now I'm starting to foster those relationships, and it's just pulling me farther and farther into places where I never knew I'd be. But once you believe that things are possible, they become possible. They become probable. It's amazing.
And it comes from just proximity, being around. I think like one of the main themes that I'm taking away from today is that how important it is to surround yourself with people that are doing things you want to do at a high level. Right. Yes. But so for the folks that, as we wrap this up, for the folks that are watching, like if they could just take one thing away from your experience, what do you hope that would be?
I would say one thing to take away, focus on not the end, but focus on your goal and the one activity to get you there. People make it really complicated. Even agents that are on my team, they're like, well, I got to follow up, but with who and how and when? Every day, all the time, constantly. Just restart the list. Every 3 days, just restart the list. Keep things really simple. As long as you're contacting people consistently, contacting enough people consistently, and working on the words in which you use and how you use them, you're going to start getting more and more deals. But consistency is key, and keeping it simple. Get on the phone, make the calls. If you don't want to spend the money on other sources, hone in your skills, guys. Like, even if you pay for those other sources, you can get hundreds of leads. But if you don't know how to speak to them and convert them and understand the conversations, you're not going to do it. And you only get there by having the conversations. So make those 35 contacts a day. Show up even when you don't want to. Show up even when you're pissed off. When the people hang up on you, call them back. Call them out for hanging up on you. Like, I used to have fun with that. Just keep going, but understand why you're doing it. And as you start to grow, have a plan for how you're going to leverage it. So just focus, show up, and be consistent.
Woo! I love it. I love it. Show up, take action. Even if you're uncertain, just make it happen.
Yeah.
Oh, Kaila, thank you so much for joining us. We went over an hour and you were so gracious with your time.
Loved it. It was great.
I learned so much on this episode today. So I just thank you for taking some time out and hanging out with us. And guys, if you like this content, if you like Kaila, please make sure to follow her on Instagram, Kaila Lindsey Realtor on Instagram. And here's her link. It is on the video. So if you did to click on it, be sure to do that. Check her out. Remember, proximity is power. Get in Kaila's world. I guarantee that will help you regardless of wherever you're at. She has such great energy and she's like helped me for the better. I'm sure she will for you guys too. Kaila, thank you so much for being here today. We'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Yes. Bye.